Okay, wonderful. All right, cool. So let's get started. Over the first, last three sessions, you have seen, presentations from other presenters, especially around, articulation and communication, how to develop critical thinking, how to apply mental models, um, how to be inquisitive, right? How to be curious and ask questions and so on, right? So today is kind of the fourth petal to that flower, or you could say the fourth biggest weapon that you could kind of master, right? Something which you could learn so that this gives you an edge, right? In your careers, while you're either seeking new jobs or you are performing in your current job, even doing your projects at school and so on, right? And the topic of discussion is problem breakdown and resolution, but the real topic that we are actually talking about is problem solving, right? And problem solving is a skill that is essential, not, it's like a timeless skill, right? I mean, today you might have Java or Python or R as the most popular languages. In another 5 years, that's going to change, right? In my lifetime itself, I've seen that over every 5 to 6 years, 5 to 8 years, there are all these new computer tools, right? I would call them tools. Languages like Java and Python and so on. All these are finally tools to go to your goal, right? And they keep changing every few years. And nowadays, they change even more rapidly. But what does not change over the entire lifespan, because um, as professionals, you easily have the next 20 to 25 years ahead of you. And if you ask me, or if you ask any industry person, what is kind of the top skill that industry is looking for, they are not looking for Java or C++ or C#.net, but they are looking for problem solving skills. It doesn't matter whether you are you're first in the class or last in the class. As long as you have good problem solving skills, that gives you an edge overall in your career progression, right? And that's why Satcom also feels that this is something which every engineer should have in their toolbox, right? The problem solving skill. And we'll talk about more about how to, what does it mean, and whether you can build on it, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the topic of conversation for today. Now, there are various parameters that lead to a problem, right? And when I say a problem, these could be as easy as my bike is not starting, right? In the morning, I try to use the button start, doesn't work. The engine doesn't crank. I try to use the kick, doesn't work. The engine does not crank. I try to push it down the slope and start it, still doesn't work. These are problems, and what I told you is kind of the solutions that you try to find to the problem, right? But what I just told you, or what I just did, was jump to a solution, right? And I did it purposefully, because that's the first error that typically anybody uh, does, right? That they jump to a solution when they see a problem, right? But is there a more methodical approach to solving a problem? Yes, there is, right? And by the way, I know there are very less number of people, but even better, because then we can have a lot of conversation amongst us. Feel free to write questions in the chat box. I'm watching the chat box closely, so feel free to write questions to me, and I'll make sure that I answer every question that is put there, right? So two things. One, what we discussed is there are so many parameters that may cause the problem. It could be as easy as, the temperature that day was more than 40 degrees. The engine was so hot that the engine did not start, or it was so cold that the engine did not start. Everything else was fine in the motorcycle or the scooter, right? It could be that, no matter whether you're using a button start or a kick start or any other jugaad, right? Any other way of um, push starting the vehicle, it doesn't start because there is no gas in it, right? But shall we jump to the solution? The solution is, if you try this, then it doesn't work, try that, right? What is there in between that we could do much more methodically, so that we can approach the problem in a different way and arrive at the best solution possible. Remember, there is no such thing as the perfect solution, but amongst the five or six things in front of us, we can always pick, okay, out of these three, this is the best solution for now, right? At this point in time, if you give me 1 hour, I can come up with this solution. If you give me 1 week, I can come up with a slightly better solution. If you give me 1 year, I'll come up with even better solution. But that 1 hour to 1 week to 1 year is basically cost, right? It is going to cost us money to wait that long, right? For whatever problem we are given. And when I say problems, there is no negative intonation to this. I don't mean problems in a bad way. Even building a bridge is a problem to solve, right? So when I say problem, think of it as almost like a mathematical or a scientific problem to solve, right? It could be, you know the hill slope is such that the water drains away very quickly, and the trees are not growing at the rate that we want. That's a problem to solve, a good problem to solve, right? So when I say problem, think of it as a scientific problem, and we have to, as scientifically as possible, find a solution to it, right? Now, I kind of talked about it briefly. So these are basically the key skills that the industry is seeking, right? So if you ask me, myself, I've recruited more than maybe 500 people in my career, right? Um, and what do I look for when somebody appears for a job interview, right? Or what do I look for in, even before that, in a resume? What do I look for in somebody who is a part of my organization and already is an employee and is working in the organization? I look for these skills. And whether you are a candidate to seek a new job, to get in or pass that interview, or you're an employee who is going to perform for the next foreseeable future in the company, this is something which you should focus on, most definitely, even before you focus on any other skill, right? So we have talked about critical thinking, articulation, curiosity. We are at the fourth one, which is problem solving, and then there are other skills like time management, decision making, getting things done, right? I mean, there could be a lot of talk around, we should do this, we should do that, but who are the people who are actually making it happen? Who are the people who are getting things done, right? Who are the people who are organized and can manage their time and activity and resources such that they complete things on time, right? And industry pays a lot of value to anybody who is completing things, right? Maybe again, not 100% perfect, but at least you got past the finish line, and that is important, right? um, the most sought after skill is problem solving, right? So because everything that the industry is running into today is a problem. If I am, let's say, a car manufacturer, I I have several questions in front of me, and each one is a problem, right? And we have to solve that problem. So questions And there are about 25 people on this group right now. uh, what kind of questions come to your mind if we say that we are a car company? Let's say we are a Mahindra or a Tata Motors, right? What could be the problems that one could be solving in these companies? Can you give me a few, and I'll elaborate on it. What comes to your mind? What could be the problems that Tata is facing today or Mahindra is facing today? Think of it from various roles perspective, right? Let's say you are a automobile engineer working for Tata Motors. What are your problems, right? What are the problems you are trying to solve? The problems could be that I need to make the engine noise free. I need to improve the mileage or the efficiency. Like Aditya is saying, after sales service, I have to worry about the after sales service. Even before after sales service, I have to worry about sale itself, right? I have to first sell 10,000 cars, and then I'll worry about after sale, right, Aditya? So likewise, there are selling. How am I going to sell 10,000 cars is a problem to solve. How am I going to reduce the noise in the car is a problem to solve, right? So each and everything is should be looked at from a efficiency gain or a business gain perspective or a customer value gain perspective. So all the activities that are done in the industry, typically you will find these activities in two big buckets, right? Either one is that they are providing more value to the customer, right? So noise free engine is a value to customer, correct? I mean, if I'm driving a car, if I'm driving a, a, a vehicle, I want to want it to be as silent as possible, right? So that's a value to the customer. So that's the number one goal. And under that goal, that could be a hundred things I need to solve to provide value to the customer. And then the second big bucket that the industry uses is the industry's business benefit. That if I solve this customer problem, am I going to get, let's say, 5,000 more cars sold? Yes. Then that's a good thing to do. We should invest time and money to solve that, because on the other side we are going to get business gains, right? So any industry you take, right, be it chemical engineering, be it plastics, be it food industry, be it automobile, any industry that you take, even software industry, even industry like, let's say, Netflix, right? OTT is an industry itself now, a domain in itself now, right? Netflix has the same issues like Tata Motors, right? How am I going to give better content to my customers? And on the other side, how am I going to make more money for myself? Right? So these two are the top problems, and then under them there are very small problems that one solves, so that they all add up, right? Now, anybody who is working for these kind of companies, or any company which is basically a for-profit company, they will find that problem solvers are the most sought after people in that industry, in any industry, by the way, right? If you can solve the problem, you are valuable. If you cannot solve the problem, you are not valuable. Now, if you might ask me, like, every person in the industry, always, is he a problem or she a problem solver? I would say that I would apply the Pareto principle here, right? You have studied mental models and Pareto principles. See, typically, there are about 20% people who run the show for the other 80%, right? You know that 20% of your customers bring in 80% revenue. 20% of the company management runs the rest of 80% of the company. What does that mean, right? It means that in any given industry, there are about 20% who are problem solvers, and you want to be one of them, not in the other 80% who are basically executing to instructions. So somebody who is solving the problem is finding a solution and then handing over that solution to somebody who is executing, right? Who is basically saying, okay, this this water from this river is flowing back into my farmland. I need to build a wall here. And that's something which a problem solver has done, right? He has found the problem, he has found the solution. Now building that wall could be somebody who is executing to the instructions, right? That that person has not designed the wall, that person has not thought about wall as a solution to diverting that river water away from their farm, the rice field or whatever. So you see the difference between, there is a group of people in any industry who are thinkers, and then there is a group of people in the industry who are doers, right? And you want to be, all of you guys on this call want to be a part of the thinkers, right? When I say thinkers, it doesn't mean that you have to sit in some dark room and think about some research and a light bulb goes away and it's a eureka moment. That's not what I meant by thinkers. What I meant is problem solvers, right? So people who are driving the company forward, who are achieving those two goals which I mentioned, right? Customer value and business benefit, are the problem solvers. So I think I've said enough, and that is the reason why this is one of the most sought after skills in the industry. Now let's move forward. Somebody asked me, right, am I born with it? That, hey, you know what, problem solving too difficult, it is not for me. You solve the problem, then I'll copy your solution, or I'll go to Google and find some solution. It doesn't matter, right? Whether you're born problem solver, whether you are instinctively a problem solver or you're not, doesn't matter, because this is a learnable skill. Okay. So it's like, I always compare it with swimming, right? Or bicycle riding. Nobody in this world was born bicycle rider. Nobody in this world was a born swimmer, right? And but there are people who have these instincts at a different level, right? Somebody who picks up the skill very quickly on riding a bicycle or swimming, and somebody who takes a little longer to learn that skill, to make it a habit, to let go of the fear of water or fear of balancing on two wheels on a bicycle and all that, right? So it takes a little time for some, but everybody eventually gets there. It is just the effort that one has to put in between, right? So the simple answer, am I born with it? Simple answer, it doesn't matter, right? Whether you're born with it, whether you learned it in problem solving in 1 week's time, or whether you took 1 year of self practice to learn it, doesn't matter, because it is a learnable skill. Anybody can learn it, right? And what happens if you don't do it, right? So if we are not methodical, we all know, right? We all know what happens at a traffic signal, right? At a traffic junction. If nobody follows the law, which is stop at a red light, it's all chaos that happens at the traffic junction, right? Always, we have seen this multiple times in our life, right? That you don't stand in the line, it is always chaos. You are buying movie tickets, you are getting onto a train. If you don't follow a certain method, it's chaos. If those of you who have traveled by aircraft, they will know that as soon as the aircraft stops, people suddenly want to stand up, right? And they're like six people sitting in a row, and within that space, that aisle of every row, there is space for one person to stand, actually, only. But all six people want to come, get out of their seats and get into the aisle, because they want to exit the aircraft as quickly as possible, only to find that everybody exits the aircraft and gets into a bus, and then you have to wait. As a group of 50 people, you have to wait inside a bus now, right? And then finally, by the time you reach your baggage claim, your bag arrives last, right? Or even if it arrives first, who cares? Because the first and last bag, it's not so much of a time difference. But why that mad rush, right? The reason is that people don't see that as a methodical way to solve issues. So remember, again, this is not something which you don't know, that follow a method and you will have better or higher likelihood of getting to the solution, of better solution, right? If you don't follow a method and you still can get to a solution, well, you have been lucky that day, right? But you don't get lucky every day. If you want to be, if you want to build that habit of making good decisions time after time, especially those of you who are planning to start their own companies, or those of you who are employed with with, or want to get employed with large corporations, being methodical and being very diligent about following certain norms and rules and laws always gets you beyond the finish line, right? May not get you there the fastest, but it will always get you beyond, and that's basically the goal, right? It will get you on the right side, I would say. All right, so let's see what are some of the things that happen, right? The mistakes which happen if you don't do this, and then we'll come to what you should be doing, right? So the impact of them and the definition of the problem is different with different people, right? um, Clarity on the owner of the problem and the team which will be contributing to solve it. There is no clarity, right? I mean, if there is a problem thrown, the first thing is that you point fingers at each other saying, hey, this is not my problem, this is that person's problem, that department's problem, right? The small tip I will give you is, make, in the industry, try to think about a problem as your own. Doesn't matter which department it belongs. Isn't it a problem for your company? So if the sale doesn't happen because of, let's say, um, the noise, the engine noise, because the engine is noisy, I cannot sell the extra 5,000 cars that I would have otherwise sold. So in other words, those 5,000 customers basically told me, no boss, your car engine is too noisy, I'll go for the other car, right? But still there are a lakh customers who have bought my car, right? Now for that 5,000 customers, should I point to the sales guy saying that, hey, you could not sell it? Or should I look at solving the problem that, hey, you know what, let me help the sales guy sell better by reducing my engine noise, because that's a real complaint that customer has given me. How? I don't know. I don't want to jump to a solution right away, but acknowledging the problem, isolating it, that for these 5,000 customers, engine noise was a problem and we as a company need to solve it. Okay. Third one, quick blame game. We have already talked about, finger pointing, not my problem is always a problem, right? Panic, and many people trying to solve the same part of the problem, right? So it's like um, trying to solve the traffic problem, classic traffic problem, right? The signal is red and the truck is like standing in the middle of the road. Now the two-wheelers only have one option, which is go around the truck, and it's all panic. Some go in front of the truck, some go from the back of the truck. The truck cannot move from where they are. It's all chaos and everything comes to a standstill. Only if people start following a method that all the two-wheelers go from behind the truck can at least start inching forward and create more and more space, right? But when there are like 50 people at the traffic light and no person knows each other, why would they listen to each other, right? They are not solving this problem together, but everybody's mind is in a panic state that I have to get across this signal first, right? And nobody can get across in a short period of time. Everybody gets kind of stuck, right? The next one is improper communication, updates, coordination. I already talked about the signal method, right? So if there is lack of communication between people, um, also leads to log jams, right? um, Non-objective discussions. So I'll give you some examples, right? What is non-objective discussions, or more subjective and emotional discussions? So let's go to our earlier example that I am in Tata Motors, and In general, I'm making a good sale of my cars, but to improve that sale, I need a small modification in my engine which will reduce the engine noise so that I can sell better, right? Now, if I say that, oh, these customers, they are like always complaining. Oh, these people, I mean, if I'm selling in Africa, I make a subjective statement like, oh, my African customers, they always do this. Okay. My North American customers, oh, they never pay on time, right? These are all emotional responses. There is no data to back up, right? There could be equal number of people in Africa or North America who are not very happy with the engine noise as much as there are in India. But we make these statements without backing them with the right data, right? So that's the other mistake that happens if you don't solve the problem right. Then there is a lack of plan, of course, right? I mean, you jump to a solution, there is no plan. Like the very first example that we took, my two-wheeler is not starting on time. What should I do? I try to do the button start, I tilt it on one side, I kick it, I push it down the slope, nothing happens, it doesn't start, right? But it all shows that you're jumping to solutions, there is no plan, there is no method to what you're doing, right? Can we do a 5 point check when my engine doesn't start? First, check whether there is fuel. Second, check whether my key is on, blah blah blah. I mean, some 5 things that a good automobile engineer can tell you, right? That have you checked these 5 things first? If you have, then think about other things, right? And it could be, oh, you know what, my ignition was not turned on, and that is why my engine was not starting. So there was petrol, there was, the kick was working, the button starter was working, everything was working. It was just that my ignition was not on. But if you actually read the manuals of these manufacturers, they actually have these instructions in a very methodical way. Have you tried these? Their troubleshooting guides, right? Are written in a very methodical way that these are the 5 things that one should do first. If these don't work, then call customer care or then call the service, and so on and so forth, right? And then all or some wanting to be heroes, right? So it's always an issue when in a soccer game or a football game you want to play solo, right? There are very very few solo players in the world, right? I mean, you guys, I'm pretty sure some of you or many of you are fans of all the clubs in England and all the soccer players, right? The star soccer players in the world, and how Mbappe runs, and how I love Cristiano Ronaldo, and how Messi dribbles and this and that, right? We are all fans of soccer and football, or pick your sport, right? And some of you may not even be watching soccer, that's okay, but you will be watching something else, you maybe movies, maybe something else, right? You have seen that solo doesn't win, right? In any kind of a game, and any place where there is teamwork required, it's always the team that wins, right? And it is always the team that loses. So don't try to be an hero, right? And because that is going to, the cost or the price that you are going to pay, or the company is going to be paying because one person wanted to step up like a hero in solving that problem, is that they don't find the right solutions. I'll give you an example, right? There is there I mean, it happened with me in one of my past jobs, actually, that we had a plan, we had a issue to solve. There was actually a customer in Europe, and we wanted to build a large partnership with that customer. Was a customer of our product, and then we wanted to build a large partnership with them. And we are trying, this was a problem to solve, right? And how do we do it so that it is a good deal for both sides, and we both, as both companies, flourish going forward? That's the goal. We had at least 2 or 3 solutions on hand, and one of the top officials in our company walked into the through the door, and without really understanding what we are trying to solve, he wanted to be a hero, right? And he said, no, 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 don't worry, I'll talk to them. Whatever you guys are thinking, don't worry about it. You're spending your time, go spend it somewhere else. I'll handle it. I'll do it, right? Tried doing that, and the deal failed, right? The reason is that this person traveled all the way from the US to Finland. Actually, I mean, we this was a Finnish company that we were working with. Traveled there, had the conversations, and the guy in Finland told that, you're trying to solve the wrong problem. You don't know the problem statement. Now think about it, right? This was some one person trying to be a hero without really understanding it. So then that could be another mistake if you don't do things methodically. All right. So let's review some problem statements. We are going to take one of these problem statements and then solve them, right? Best brands should come to our college for recruiting. Good problem statement, right? Every college wants to attract the best of the brands and have, then recruit as many students from their college as possible. Now, one of the things that I would appeal to you, as students, is that the first instinct, don't make it a college problem, right? That brands getting attracted to college is a problem that the college and the students can solve together. It's not something which the college is going to solve only, right? So if we avoid that one mistake, then we start breaking it down into, okay, why do good brands get attracted? What do they want, right? I mean, it's like understanding the customer need. Breaking that problem down into smaller pieces itself will give you a lot of solutions, right? I mean, I remember, one of the um, one of the statements that Einstein made, and I think it was Einstein, because if you go to Google, or go on the internet, you will find that Einstein said so, but we really don't know who said it, right? So if there is 1 hour to solve a problem, I will spend 55 minutes asking questions, and in the last 5 minutes, my solution will reveal itself, right? That's what that person said. What it means is that I will spend a lot of time analyzing within that 1 hour, lot of time, right? I'm not saying that, I will give me 1 year and I will solve your problem. You have been given 1 hour to solve it, but within that 1 hour, you are not finding the solution, or don't jump to finding the solution in the first minute. Try to break that problem down into smaller parts, understand each part, understand solution to each part, whether that's the right solution, whether you are using the right data, whether you are taking an emotional decision. As long as all those things are covered, you have followed a method, and then you will arrive at the right solution, right? Second is, honeybees are declining, right? It's a alarm bell for human existence. I was actually reading somewhere, and some of you can confirm whether this is true or not, um, either on this call or maybe research later and tell me later. Somebody said that the day that honeybees cease to exist on the earth, in 4 years from that day, the human existence will vanish. We are so much dependent on honeybees, we don't understand it, right? And honeybees population is declining. So what should we do to bring back that honeybee population, so that it helps, human longevity, human health, and human existence? Problem to solve, right? Big problem to solve. And this problem is at a massive scale, right? It's at like a global scale. You can't solve it that, in my small community I will solve it. There has to be a lot of things that have to come together to solve it, right? Or don't again make the mistake of jumping to, oh, I know how to solve this problem, okay, and within 5 minutes you have a solution, right? Don't make that mistake either, right? Let's go through the process, and we'll come to what the process is also, right? Third is, customers have complained that our app crashes a lot. So all these are, real life problems that we have been hearing everywhere around, right? And I'll give you an interesting anecdote, right? I was talking to a student yesterday. We went to a rural, not really a rural, but a tier two kind of city, and we were talking to students in that city. And I asked one of the students, what do you want to do? What's your goal, right? And the student said that, I want to learn Java. Now, that can't be anybody's goal, right? The way you got to think about is that, yes, learning Java is going to give you an additional tool in your toolbox, but learning Java is not the goal, right? Remember those two things that I talked about. If you are in a professional life for a for profit company, your goal should be aligned with one of those two things. One is providing more customer value. Customer value could be anything which is faster, better, cheaper. Any product that you are selling, if you can make it better, you have added value, right? If you can make it cheaper, you have added value. If you can make it faster, you have added value, and so on, right? And so on and so forth. Anything that improves customer value, you could align your goal to it, right? And these are professional goals that I'm talking about. This is not the philosophical purpose in life and all that I'm talking. This is very professional goals. How do you talk about your goals also, right? And the second is the business benefit, right? That creating apps which can scale to 1 million customers, right? I want to be the person who is creating that. I want to be in the team, or that becomes a goal which is going to benefit the company, because it is basically taking your product to lakhs of customers, right, worldwide, and so on. And Java is going to be a tool in between. So the main thing is, how do I scale my applications? How do I add more customer value? Those become real goals, right, that you can go after. Learning Java and being good at Python and those kind of things are tools which will get you there. Remember what I said earlier. Problem solving will stay forever, right? Solving a problem of scale, that if I show this movie, or if I'm broadcasting a cricket match, how can I broadcast this cricket match to millions of viewers in the world under 1 second, right? Without any delay and in the cheapest manner. That could be a good problem to solve, and that problem will stay forever too. These kind of problems will stay forever to solve, whether you use Python at the back end, whether you use some other data science which nobody has else used, or whether you um, create a new front end in Java or whatever. Those are tools that you're using for a short duration, and they will change. In 5 to 7 years from now, all this Java and Python and all that will become redundant. There will be something new that is in the market, right? And you'll start using those tools, but you will be still solving the problems of scale, right? And so on. um Organization seems to be demotivated. We need to fix this. So another problem that I have run into, right, or rather I have faced myself, is that the organization is demotivated. Now, how do you motivate 300 people, right? It's a tough task, and we need to fix it. As a company, you cannot have demotivated employees, right? And this is something which, in one of my past jobs, we actually did it. We actually had this real problem. By the way, all these problems that are listed here are my personal experience, real problems, right? The first one, bringing brands to colleges, may not be personal, but bringing more customers to my company is the same as bringing more brands to colleges, right? So it's still pretty much the same problem that I have run into, and those are the ones that I have listed here, right? Or the last one that you take, right, the UX, so user experience of our app is bad, right? We need to make it better than our competition. Okay, let's start working on user experience. But why? Has anybody asked the question, how many people are using it? Has anybody asked the question, what is the definition of bad? Tell me, show me 5 bad reviews which will tell me that it is really bad. What is it that makes it bad? So there are several ways to tackle this, right? But we are going to take one such. So let's take the third one, right? App crashes. All right. This is the same statement that, hey, can somebody give me a thumbs up? Are you guys with me so far, able to hear me? Great. Thanks, Mithila. Thanks, Sharmila. Feel free to ask me questions. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to ask me questions in the chat box. Many of you did not join in the first 5 minutes, but that's what I'm just repeating, that I keep the chat box on. I keep watching it. So as soon as you send me questions, we'll take up those questions. We'll answer them. Otherwise, I will also have some questions, and we'll keep going with the presentation. Right now, this is another thing which I remember from my younger days. When I say younger, I mean when I was fresh, almost early in my career, right? That if I only had an hour to chop all wood, I will spend the first 45 minutes sharpening my axe, right? And it tells a lot of things, right? That the axe is nothing but the tool that you're using to chop wood, right? Spending the first 45 minutes. Remember, you have been given 1 hour. It is not like, hey, take your time and chop this wood. Then you actually don't need to sharpen your axe, right? Or you may not need to sharpen it for 45 minutes. Maybe you could sharpen it lesser because you have all the time in the world. Aram se todenge, like one chip at a time every day. I can do that also, right? Now, why 1 hour? Because the industry always works time bound, right? You will always run into situations where you have to deliver within a certain time period, right? Which means that you have to analyze the problem and you have to solve the problem. You have to produce the solution and prove that it works within that stipulated time, right? And the 45 minutes, though it is figurative, it's not like the exact calculation that you have to spend three-fourth of the time sharpening the axe. What it means is that spend a majority of the time trying to analyze, dissect the problem so that you find the best solution, the sharpest solution, right? Without this, you will still find a solution but may not be the sharpest one. And that's our goal, right? To find the best solution possible. All right. Now, this is a problem statement. I want you guys to, you know, look at this problem statement. I hope everybody is able to read the screen and uh, answer the question at the bottom, right? What should I do next? मैं अभी क्या करूं? Mobile app crashes. So my mobile app is crashing. Customers are complaining. Company has to fix this problem as soon as possible. And you, right? So there are several people on this call. Each one of you, let's say you are that person, right? You are that engineer or you are that manager who is now made responsible in the company that go solve this problem. You are being made responsible to solve this, right? So let's take a minute or so. In that 1 minute, keep sending me questions in the chat window, as question statements, whatever you think, right? What you will do next is what I want to know. That mobile crash, app crash ho raha hai. My mobile app is crashing. You are the person who is going to fix the problem. Go fix it, is what your company is telling you. What will you do next is the question. Again, no right or wrong answer. So don't fear about, saying something stupid. Don't worry about it. There's nothing called as stupid, right? Everything is important. So let's take about a minute or two, and keep sending me what you think you will do next. Fix and deploy update is what Aditya is saying. Okay. Let all, as many students answer. By the way, everybody on the call, one thing you should keep in mind is that you got to speak up, right? In the industry, nobody's going to give you a chance that it's okay to keep quiet. In the college, it's okay, college will allow you to keep quiet, but in the industry, they will think of it as, you don't have anything to say. So please speak up. What do you think? Okay. CB Shri saying analyze the reason for crash. Bhumi saying analyze the crash, debug and troubleshoot. Okay. Go ahead. And by the way, your answers may be the same like somebody else's thought, but still send me what you think. Okay. Tejas is saying find the root cause of the crash. Okay. Okay, Sibisri is saying identify the issue, collect logs, analyze the root cause, apply a fix, test on multiple devices. Okay. By the way, all answers so far are correct answers, right? What I want you guys to think is a little outside of engineering also, right? Think outside of coding and testing. Mobile app is crashing. Company needs to fix this problem. Customer is screaming, and you are assigned the responsibility that go solve this. Okay, Tejas is saying consult other people for their thoughts and ideas as well, both for the crash and the fixes. Okay. So Tejas, can you expand on what you mean by thoughts and ideas on the crash? Are you talking about how it crashed, or are you talking about something else? And what would somebody else do? Is that what you mean? Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I got a display problem here. Let me solve it and then we'll continue. Meanwhile, keep thinking about the solution. We'll start analyzing all this in another minute or two. Okay. All right. Okay. Great. So good answers, by the way. Everyone. Um, I would say that these answers are pretty much in line with what anybody would do. But let's um, think about this a little more, right? Um, so if my app is crashing, right? Um, the few of the questions that come to mind, right, is what about the data? So okay, so let me see. There are two more solutions. If the customer is not ready If the customer is not ready to wait, acknowledge their frustration, apologize for inconvenience, assure them that you are addressing the issue, and offer a quick temporary fix while working on a permanent fix. Okay, great answer. So basically, talk to the customer, don't be silent, and then need to think what can be the impact on the users, how much time we have to fix that. Yeah, Sharmila, actually, you are getting closer to where I want to go. Um, so what can be the impact, right? So let's say you are assigned to solve the problem, and everything that you stated, you have to basically start putting on what is called as a mind map, and that is one of the techniques that we are learning today, which is how do you use mind mapping effectively if you have to solve these problems, right? So what I'm going to do is, while I'm talking about the kind of questions that come to my mind, I will also call out, I will also show you actually what a mind map would look like, right, in this kind of cases. So we have to solve this together. This is going to be a little hands-on exercise, right? So present something else. Presenter view, window mind. Okay. I think you are able to see this, right? You're able to see my screen. Um, can you see the screen which basically shows a mind map with app crash written in the center? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. All right. So um, this is how the mind map looks like, right? This is a mind mapping tool called Xmind, and let's try to put everything on this mind map, right? As we keep thinking about it. So what the way I would start thinking, somebody said diagnosis and troubleshooting, right? So somebody already said that I will try to find the root cause. I think it was Tejas who said that find the root cause for the crash, right? So the root cause could be multiple, right? The root cause for the crash could be because of several reasons already, right? It could be what could be issues, many of you are from computer science and hardware background. Can you tell me what could be the reasons for crash? Why do machines crash? What happens? What makes them crash? Let's get, maybe two or three reasons from you. Why do machines crash? We have seen it happen with our laptops and mobile phones also, and then apps on mobile phones. Right when this call was happening, the monitor that I'm using on my side, that crashed also. So what could be? Yes, Aditya, weak hardware, right? So let's say, there is short of insufficient memory, or you have high CPU usage, or it could be okay. So if my mobile app is slow, not crashing, but when I say my app is slow, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Why could it be slow? My Paytm transaction is not going through, or my GPay is not going through. It's just spinning round and round. What could be the issue? Low RAM. Okay. But that is, you're looking at the app, right? What could be the external issue? Is there could be there be a connectivity issue? Maybe I have coded my app correctly. It could be the fastest of the app. Why do on YouTube or when you're watching Netflix, things start buffering, right? Why do they start buffering? Server issue. Yeah, but again, server is a machine, right? Maybe the server is also strong. It could be a network issue, right? Between the server and your mobile phone, there is the whole internet, right? There is the whole Wi-Fi network, or the carrier network, cell phone, 4G network, 5G network, whatever, right? It could be that issue. So connectivity, right? Yes, Bhumi. So that's basically, and then server issue also. My app could be showing very slow results because the server itself is not coded. My app is like coded well. There is nothing to be done on the app. So when I'm trying to solve a crash problem on the app side, maybe it is something else which is causing this crash, is what I was getting to, right? So, or it could be low battery. At low battery conditions, my app cannot handle low battery mode. So it always needs battery above 25% to perform. Now this is a boundary condition, right? Anytime the battery drops below, let's say 10%, right? At least on my phone, it goes from green to yellow, right? My battery phone shows me green to yellow, which means low power mode aa gaya. I have to charge my phone, right? And there are some apps which suddenly become very slow in response once my phone goes from green to yellow, right? Battery mode. So that is the external cause of making the app slow. And sometimes, maybe because of that, the app may be crashing. We don't know. We don't want to conclude one way or the other. Then there could be coding errors. Very straightforward, simple. Somebody said that, I will fix the code, I will test it. Similarly, for just find the coding error. Where is it? Unhandled exceptions. There could be null pointer exceptions. There could be logic errors. There could be errors like, the user is giving me bad input, right? When I say bad, I mean wild characters, right? If I'm presenting the user with a form, and that form cannot accept a pound character or a dollar character, and the user sends me a dollar or a pound or an asterisk in the form field, my app crashes because I have not handled that exception, right? I have not handled that condition where I do front end validation, right? So these could be all causes, right? Generally speaking, they are code errors. So anything that is, a type mismatch, um, uh, array index, out of bounds. It could be like 100 other code errors, like coding errors. It could be issues with the device itself, that we have seen a lot of times that, hey, you know what, this works very well on that other laptop. Why? This works very well on the other mobile device, और ये iPhone से Android पे अच्छा दिखता है ज्यादा. Why that difference, right? There is a difference in device hardware architecture, everything, right? And then there is a support matrix, there is a compatibility between my app can work on these five kind of hardwares. So if my app is crashing on a certain device, or rather on a certain hardware which has Android operating system which is older than Snow Leopard, right? Snow Leopard is a Android operating system, and you should look at Android's history, right? It's kind of interesting. They have very interesting names for their operating systems. Anyway, it could be that, right, that my hardware needs to be upgraded. My customer is screaming at me that, your app is crashing, but the only solution is I have to do nothing in the app. I have just tell the customer, upgrade your phone, sir, and you'll be fine. So there is nothing to fix on my side, really. Okay. So these are all causes. What you see in this top left corner, these are all causes, and these are ones that I've listed, right? So this is how our mind thinks, right? So why this is called a mind map is because our mind does not think linearly, that, why the app causes, why my app is crashing because of these causes, then there are 4 types of causes, and then there are 20 types of sub causes, and our mind does not think like that. Remember, the first thing that um, somebody said, right, Aditya said, is I'll fix and deploy, right? My app is crashing, I'll fix and deploy. But now, after only about 5 minutes of analysis, we have maybe concluded that, it's a hardware upgrade issue on the customer side. I have to do nothing on my side, right? So there is nothing to fix and nothing to deploy, right? These Our mind does not think linearly. Our mind thinks in kind of that large cloud of ideas, right? And that's why it's important to just list those ideas in a long list, and then rearrange them. For example, i I find that, oh, this type mismatch is one of the causes, or, I mean, only a few hours back my list was looking like this, something like this. Okay, the list was looking something like this. Then, you know this is when I started thinking about, what all things could be responsible for the crash. Then I thought that, okay, let me do some categorization, that, let me do, memory leaks is a resource issue, so I should put it in the resource. And race condition is a coding error. Logic error is a coding error. Array index out of bounds, type mismatch, null pointer, and unhandled exception, all these are coding errors. What I just did was arrange the same information in a more logical format after the information was there already, right? So in our mind, that's what happens. As thoughts keep coming to you, sometimes, it's not like, first let me only think about causes, and let me think about types and mitigation and this later. No, you look at our chat window, right? Each one of you have jumped from here, sometimes to mitigation strategies, sometimes to troubleshooting, sometimes to types of crashes, and so on and so forth, right? And that's how mind thinks. And let it think naturally. All that we need to do is trap all that information on a mind map. Now imagine that you're sitting with 5 other teammates, right? Because you as a team have been assigned to solve this. You can use this kind of a tool. Open your laptop, project it on a larger board, and ask team to put in their ideas, right? And if it's a shared mind map, People can start putting all their ideas, just like we did in our chat window. Pull all our ideas together, then start rearranging them, like I showed you, right? Okay, so that's kind of, let's go back to where we were, right? So devices, uh, I think it was who was that? I think Sharmila did talk about, need to think about what can be the impact on the users, right? So I would like to kind of uh, talk about that a little more, right? When we talk about app crashes, we should talk about data. Remember, what we talked about earlier. One of the problems in one of the main mistakes that we make in problem solving is use emotion. अरे ऐसे ही होता है, अरे वो मेरा अफ्रीका का कस्टमर ऐसा ही है, oh it always happens with my North America customer, oh my morning my bike never gets started on time, right? So these are all emotional responses. How do you counter emotional responses? With data. So what Sharmila was saying is that the impact on users is data. Impact could be quantified, right? Now, even before quantifying the impact on users, let me quantify the user base itself, right? So how many users have been affected? I want to know that first. From those users, what is the kind of revenue I am getting? I want to know that, right? Because all those are decision points, and maybe some of them are useless decision points, that the like, out of these users, 20 users are coming up for upgrade next year. At this time their app is crashing, I need to make sure that I find a solution to that. Upgrading next year, maybe a sub data point, but I'm not going to use it right now. So throw away the data that you don't need, keep the data that you need, right? But always base your decisions on data. Okay. And what kind of data? It's basically, what is the percentage user base. So let's say, only about, you find out that my crash happens on Android users. Anybody who has snow clone, what is that, snow cone or tiramisu, right? These are the two operating systems that they have. And when user enters a dollar or a non-alphanumeric character, my app crashes, right? And this is the number of users. So let's say 10,000 users, which is only 5% of my total user base. Now you start getting the expanse of how much, or the impact to the user, right? This problem, how far has it reached? It has actually reached 5% of my customers, so 95% are still safe, right? And that's the first thing that we have learned from our analysis, that you try to find out how many users are affected. So my first question, if somebody comes to me with an app crash, that hey, go fix this, there is some problem that has happened, is how many customers are affected, what is the degraded service that they are getting, are they not able to see at all, or are they able to see but in somewhat. So let me give you an example, right? Only a few days back, I think it was sometime in January, my bank, right? I'll not talk about the bank, but or the logo, but my bank's app, mobile app was working, but the website was not working, right? And I don't know for how many users this was happening. I am a customer of that bank, but if I was given that problem to solve, that would be one of my questions, that are the customers able to do this transaction some other way? Yes. Okay. So the customer's anger has come down from here to here, right? Because it's not like, I'm not able to do the transaction at all. I'm at least able to do it from my mobile app today, right? Not from my website, but from mobile app. It's okay. Well, I mean, in general, it's not okay, but for now, until I solve the problem, it's okay, is what I'm saying, right? So the quantity behind the data is very important. The quantity behind the problem, which is the data, which is a very objective way of looking at things, is very important, because that will tell you the severity of that issue, right? So if somebody comes and tells you that, hey, you know what, stop everything and solve this problem, the first question that I would have is, what is the revenue that is getting affected? What is the number of users? Are these users our top tier customers or are they not? How much is the percentage user base that is running into this problem? So here is where, I'm actually looking at it from outside in perspective. I'm not even gone to the code level and trying to solve anything, just trying to gather data on, let me understand the volume first, right? And volume is all about quantity. Next is, what kind of mitigation strategy. So some of you already talked about, okay, this uh, crash is happening, what else can we do, right? Some say that, hey, you know what, this crash could have been avoided if we had a bigger testing team. We don't have any testers, or we have only two testers, we want five testers. Okay, that's one way to solve it, and I will get five testers. But today, suddenly producing five testers, is it going to solve my customer's problem today? No. But longer term solution, yes. I will make sure that I add a few resources to the team. Maybe, we have a good number of testers, but the test plan is not good, right? When I say not good, it's inadequate. That could be a problem as well, that the test plan does not cater to old devices, does not cater to non-alphanumeric inputs. um, what else? Okay, so this is about some mitigation strategies. Now we are coming to, okay, what could be the solutions to all this, right? One of the solutions could be do nothing, right? I mean, tell the customer, sorry, please upgrade to a later Android operating system. Or tell the customer that, sorry sir, sorry ma'am, we don't support this old device anymore. Tell what the customer is paying for, right? I mean, the customer has paid for that app, let's say 10 years back. The customer cannot expect that the app continues after 10 years, right, working the same way. The reason is that there are upgrades of devices, and there is a certain life to the software. Technology is changing, so it is imperative that the customer keeps upgrading their environments to match up with what is current, right? You will find that so many times, things have become obsolete, right? And the reason why is that you can't keep supporting everything in the back. Companies need to put their resources for the future, and that, because of that reason, they always have what is called as a current support matrix, right? So today's software is released on so many platforms, so many operating systems, and it is tested on these many platforms. That is what is called as a support matrix, right? Or sometimes it's called system requirements, right? What is your system requirement? If you have so much memory, so much this, so much CPU, you're good, you can install it and run it, right? Anything less than that, we don't guarantee success. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, we don't know, right? And that is the fence that you're putting around your releases. Otherwise, you'll just have like thousands of people in engineering working on so many releases across so many devices and so much hardware and so many operating systems and so on, right? The company can't do that. So that's one area to look at, right? Maybe there is no solution. Maybe the solution is that, say sorry to the customer and tell them to upgrade. Or maybe the solution is like somebody pointed out, right, to do a quick fix right now and then do a larger solution later, right? So what is a quick fix? Immediately release a patch, right? Immediately make sure that there is some way that that special character is getting handled. Because remember, our problem was only the special characters on those devices on Android and so on and so forth, right? So only tackle that problem, patch it up for now, right? It's called a band-aid, band-aid solution. Just put a band-aid on the wound, right? And then think about how this cut does not come back later, right? So this should not repeat again. Otherwise, we'll have to put band-aid upon band-aid, right? And companies do that mistake also. But how not to do it is something, it just gives us time to think about what should be the longer term solution. So longer term solution could be, I need to change some structure in the code, so that it handles those exceptions well. Second is, I need to make sure that the customer communication is very crisp. Maybe I have not communicated to customer that this device is obsolete and will not be supporting it, so let me give the customer 6 months to upgrade. Until then this band-aid will work. Or it could be, adding those two people in this in the testing team, so that my software get tested better. So all these are little longer term solutions, and I get a breather to implement those solutions, right? But those solutions should be on the board somewhere to look at, right? Because now we'll come to what and how we are going to use this, right? So coming to that, we have so many mitigation strategies like you're seeing on the screen. There is, what should I do for error handling? I'll put a try catch block. I'll do some exception handling. I'll do input validation. So I have so many things that I can do, right? For performance optimization, what do I do? Memory management, updates. Some say bug fix, crash, patches. What should I do? Testing. What different kind of testing can I do better in the future? These are all These are all solution strategies, right? For the future. I have not even arrived at what am I exactly going to do today. This is still, remember, sharpening that axe. We are still in that mode of, together we are trying to think about what is the best solution for this, right? And likewise, you have diagnosis and troubleshooting. So you will, somebody already said that, I'll collect the logs and analyze the logs and so on. Maybe, all logs are not available. I'll make sure where they're not available, I'll put them in place. I'll take user feedback. This is very important, right? Because a lot of times we go blindly. I've seen this happen many times, that once somebody says, hey, there is a problem in the software, everybody starts looking at the software and nobody is looking at the customer to understand what steps did the customer follow to get to that problem, right? Maybe it's user training, maybe the customer is not clicking the right buttons, maybe our software is not providing the right kind of guides or guideline, that after this, now do you want to do this, go here, right? Some kind of a wizard that will guide you through the product, right? Maybe we are not doing it right on the guide side, on the help side of the product. Our software may be okay. And then of course debug tools, right? Maybe we don't have or have these debug tools, but going through that, right? Anybody who has done log analysis will know that there is so much log to parse. What can we do so that we can make our lives better? That's another thing, right? Because we don't have a lot of time, we don't have all the time in the world, right? So that's the diagnostic part. And then there is types of crashes. So just in the interest of time, I've just typed it in here and kept it and organized it also. So type, my app is asking me to force quit, so nothing happens, it just hangs. I have to kill it, right? Just kill it to force quit, as we call it, to get out of it. Or sometimes it freezes for some time and then it comes back to life. Sometimes it could be a native crash, and sometimes it could be a virtual machine crash also. So the whole machine is not coming down, the whole machine is working, my whole mobile phone or my laptop is working fine, but only this app is showing me this behavior, right? So this is the type of crashes, and this is then how my mind map starts looking, right, in general. So after I have had my conversation with the team members, this is how my mind map starts looking, that okay, you know what, so we have spent almost 25 minutes or 30, we have been given 1 hour, right? And as a team, we have to solve this problem. We have so many things that we can do. Okay, now what is the next thing, right? So next thing, the good thing is that we have done convergence, right? So the method that we are learning, the method or the steps, so I'll show you the method actually for a minute, and then I'll come back to this, right? Okay, where were we? Here. Okay. Okay, so we have seen that there is a method, right? The method is first identify and define the problem, right? So we did the definition of the problem, we did a level of root cause analysis. So we have not gone into the code, inside the code, and see where exactly the code is bad, but we know that there is a memory leak problem somewhere, so I need to fix that. Or there is some logic issue, so exactly what that issue is I don't know, but somewhere there it is trying to crash, right? And then we have come up with some solution options that, like like the almost like the 10 or 15 things that we discussed as solutions, right? Next, what we need to do is evaluate and prioritize. So now you have a very large mind map, right? This is how your mind map looks like. And look at the mitigation strategies. You have 3 and 3 6 and 3 9 and 2 11 and 2 13 mitigation strategies, right? So 13 things that you can do. Okay, now you tell me, if I only have time and money, I only have 5 people in my team, and only have 1 week to fix this, I can only do maybe 3 things out of it, right? If I can only do 3 things, or let's say I can do 5 things out of 13, right? Immediately. How and what do I need to do to find out which 5, right? So there is actually a way in mind mapping itself to evaluate and prioritize. So let's look at the eval equation, right? So I'll present my screen back again. Okay, so you guys can see my screen here. And all right, now what we are going to do is to figure out of what you see on the screen, right, which are the most important to do right away. Okay, so that's what we are going to try and focus on. That what is it out of, let me close all the diagnostic and type of crashes. Okay, so now we are only talking about mitigation strategies for these 13 things, right? So we are now as a team going to work on, okay, we have 13 things to fix, but we are only going to find out which are the top 3 to fix. Okay, not all 13, because we don't have the time. So let's look at them one by one, right? And you guys can tell me what you think could be the top things to fix. Okay, so I'll call out. As you can see, I think you can see my cursor here. So in the error handling, putting a try catch block, or doing a exception handling, or doing input validation, what do you guys think, which is a low hanging fruit, which is quicker than the other two? You can type in your answers in the chat window. My question is, out of the 3 things under error handling, which one, and there is no right or wrong answer, right? So you can just tell me input validation, exception, or try catch, whatever you will think you should do first, which is lowest hanging fruit, that would be good. Tell me. Okay, Sanika is saying input validation. Who else? What do you think is the lowest hanging fruit? Exception handling seems like some amount of work. Track and block also seems like some amount of work. So let's put input validation. I'm going to mark it, right? So there is actually, let me see where it is. I think you can see my screen. And where is the marker? There's a way to mark things here. Map, pitch, style, marker. Where is the marker? Here. Okay, so I do a marker. I'll put this as first priority, exception handling as second priority, and try catch block as third priority. Okay, so imagine that you're sitting with your team doing this. Okay, and that's why I'm showing you this, that this is a team exercise that you guys are doing. Okay, let's move to the next one, the testing. In testing, you are this crash is happening for 5% of the users. You will do unit testing. A unit testing is something which has to be done cycle over cycle, right? It's a new strategy that you got to implement. You will do integration testing, or you will do device compatibility testing. What will you do first? Let's just look at that. Okay, Sanika is saying device integration because first we need to understand the compatibility of devices. Yeah. See, remember, our crash happened on certain devices, on certain operating systems. So let us implement device testing first, because that is going to give us the most bang for the buck. So we'll give it number one. Integration testing is a bigger exercise, and unit testing is a longer term strategy that we got to implement. All three are important, but the sequence is this: first we'll do this, then we do this, then we do this, right? Then app updates. Okay, we know there are some bug fixes to be done. There is crash fixes, and there are patches. There are other 10 things to be done at the same time. Inside bug fixes, you will do patches first, crashes, or bug fixes. No right or wrong answers, guys, because assume that this is a team exercise we are doing. But in the interest of time, we'll have to move a little faster. So type in your answers what you think. Is it bug fixes you will do first, crash fixes, or patches? No idea about patches, but bug would go first. Okay, anybody else? See, bug fixes, bugs, there are lots of bugs in the software, right? And all these bugs collectively make a release. Right now, the need of the hour is that in 1 week's time, the customers might get mad at me. I need to find, I am being assigned. Remember, each one of you has been assigned to fix this problem. So, in order to do that, I'm going to do crash fixes first. First, fix the crash, which is going to happen. And whatever I have to do around that crash, I'll fix that first. Next, I will do bug fixes. And third, any patches and whatnot, right? So, I'll, for now, for the interest of time, again, I'm moving a little faster. And then memory management, right? On those devices, the 5% devices, particular devices, old devices, and older Android operating system, we are already giving a crash fix, and we are giving a input validation, and we are putting in some device compatibility test, right? So memory management, maybe you don't need see, object pooling, cache management, threading, multi-threading, or image optimization. All those kind of things take a lot of time. So right, so I'm going to put everything else on second or third priority, because I don't need to do it today. And remember, I was told that I only need 3 things out of the 13 that I want to fix, right? And this is how you prioritize. Now you see the power of mind mapping. This is data backed decision making, right? This, each one you have data, why you have selected this, why this is number one, why this is number two, right? And then you can convince your team, you can convince your management, your peers, your stakeholders, everybody, why we are going to fix these things in this sequence, right? So that is the prioritization. Okay. And for those who don't know, this tool that I'm using here is called Xmind. I'll just type the name here. There is a free version that you can use. It is on the internet. Sorry, it has a web app as well as a native app. So I would implore each one of you to go use that, right? In many things, and I'll come to those many things in a minute. But this is just one tool. There are many other tools like this. But what we have done is that now we are ready with some level of prioritization. So if you are asked by your CEO, by your customer, by anybody from your sales team, that tell me, what are you doing, right? So you go back to this question, right? What we asked ourselves, what should I do next? We did all this. We asked a lot of questions. This was all sharpening our sword and collecting data, right? Collecting the data and rejecting what is not required, not making any emotional decisions, breaking down the problem into multiple smaller parts, finding lots of solutions, putting them all in some kind of a map like this, right? And this map doesn't happen in the first version. It looks much chaotic, and then you start sorting out. So there is a technique to create this mind map also. You start putting everything in one node, right? Then you create the second level nodes, that on the causes, I'll just keep all the reasons why the crash might happen. On the diagnostic and troubleshooting, all those things which I have analyzed, I will keep there. On the mitigation strategies, all those things that are my solutions, I will keep there. And why the crash or types of crashes, I'll keep there, right? This is how you start managing this data. This is not how you create it on the first instance. It took me almost like 2 or 3 rounds of doing this to come up with this picture, right? And this becomes a very powerful way of looking at things, because now you're not missing out on anything. You have looked at everything, right? Of course, everything in 1 hour, right? Remember, we were only given 1 hour to solve this, and we are doing a pretty good job so far at solving it. But if you are given a week, maybe your solution could be even better. And maybe in if it is 1 week, you could include a few of these things as mitigation strategies even more, or find even better solutions, right? It's all dependent on how much time you want to give, for what cause, right? So this is very important, that it is happening on Android systems, only 5% of the user base and the number of users. So there are multiple solutions, right? All the solutions we have looked at. This is a guiding point, that these three things for 5% of my users, I think is a good solution. I don't need to spend more time on these users, right? Because it is only 5% of my users. So understanding how many people are affected, what is the impact of it, and then what solutions do I have, you know, to minimize that impact. I'll pick the top three out of them, and that should be good enough, right? And then the rest of it is risk that I take, because even after implementing these solutions, there could be still 1 or 0.1% of my customers who are still going to be angry at me. So be it. That's going to be then my company decision. I have tried to do the right thing by providing a, a fix to the crashes, right? And what I'm telling you is that's how companies operate. That's how companies think, right? They are not looking at fixing every problem in their application. All right. Now what we do after this is turn this into an implementation plan. Remember, we identified the issue, we did a root cause, we did enumeration, we evaluated and prioritized, and now into implementation plan, right? So what are you going to do now? Everything that is urgent and important. Next is important, that you have to change internal processes, you have to hire new people. All those are what you will do next. And then there is longer term goal, right? What is the longer term goal? That over a period of time, I'm going to tell these customers that 6 months max I will keep supporting you. After that, you have to upgrade, or between that you have to upgrade, and so on, right? So this is my next 2 weeks plan, this is my next 3 months plan, and this everything else I'm pushing it to next year. That is not so important to do right now, right? And this becomes your start point. This is outside the mind map, but this becomes your start point for the actions, right? These are all actions. I will do input validation. It is going to cost me 2 people for 2 weeks. The benefit is 60% of the crashes are going to get mitigated, and so on, right? Whatever your data is. So remember, backing everything with data always, right? So that becomes your implementation plan. And then you have completed all of the methods and steps, right? So that's how one should look at. So I wanted to show you one more slide before you go ahead, right? So we were talking about, is there a technique, right? Remember this crash, but is there a technique? We said yes, there is absolutely a technique. There are in fact more than one techniques for problem solving, right? Mind mapping, fishbone diagram. If you guys have learned about it or not learned, I don't know, but this is another powerful technique, fishboning, which is you start with the event that has happened and then start tracing it back like a fish bone structure, right? The cause and effect of everything. It looks like a fish skeleton. You should look up Google to find about fishbone diagram and how it is used for problem solving. Then there is five whys method, there is six thinking hats, there is SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. There are multiple ways or frameworks that people have built to solve this. We just learned one today, which is mind mapping. Okay, because in my experience, again, mind mapping has proved to be um, time agnostic. It has proved to be a very simple way of putting things on the board and coming up with a solution, right? Especially when there are multiple people involved and there are lots of ideas coming out. Using a mind map helps, um, helps drive towards that convergence. And then the method that we learned is identify, define, then root cause it, enumerate the solutions, evaluate and then prioritize, and then pick one and implement, right? That's the so method does not change. It's basically the steps, you can call it. Technique, you can use any of these techniques, but I would recommend that try mind mapping, a very powerful technique. Okay, so we have about maybe 10 to 15 minutes remaining. The next 15 minutes I'm going to talk about the some of the ways that one could use mind mapping. But before that, are there any questions on problem solving itself that I could help answer? Is it reasonably clear to you guys why I'm stressing so much on problem solving? And reasonably, give me a thumbs up if you agree. I'm not going to ask you any interview questions here, but reasonably, did you get the importance of being a good problem solver? Thanks, Priyan. I believe everybody heard the question. Um, as long as you learn the skill, it's a learnable skill. As long as you practice it every day, as long as and how to do it, right? And so that's a very interesting question actually that somebody asked me, that how can I become a better problem solver? How can I become a better problem solver? Any ideas that come to your mind? How can you be a better problem solver? We have already said that we can learn the skill. Now the question is what to learn. Where do I start? Any ideas there from you guys? Okay, so let me give you a few tips, right? On what you could do in your daily lives to become a better problem solver, right? Let's move to that first and then come back. So one thing which you have learned in, I think, the last week's presentation by Abhijit is be curious, right? Everywhere around you look, you have products lying around. Okay, you use a scooter to go to college, or you step out on the road, you see scooters going by. In the room that you're sitting, you probably have a ceiling fan. You probably have a pen lying around on the desk that you're sitting, or the sofa that you're sitting today. What is the problem that product is solving, right? Ask these questions that I have written at the bottom. By the way, these slides will be available to you, right? Exactly like Sanika is saying, right? To develop a systematic approach. But how do you develop, right? It's like saying that I want to um, have strong muscles. Okay, and having strong muscles always helps, and there could be several ways of doing it, right? Several ways of building strong muscle. But where do you start? So I'm giving you a few tips on where to start. So what problem does the product solve? So if you look at the ceiling fan, Can you write one sentence about what problem is the ceiling fan solving? Okay. Or if you look at a scooter which is going, like passing by right in front of you, you don't have to do it now, but I'm just kind of provoking your thinking here, right? And you can take down these questions and use these questions to ask about any product that is around you, anything, right? Why is it designed this way? So if I hold my phone in my hand, which I think you will have your phone somewhere close by, why is my phone designed this way? Why are the buttons at specific locations? Why is the camera on that top left corner on the back side? Why is that? Right? Ask the why question. Why is the product designed in that way? Then ask the question, how old is the design? That is it still relevant? Right? So if you are looking at a product, if I'm looking at the ceiling fan, that in the room that I'm sitting in, that ceiling fan is probably 12 years old, right? So which means that the design would have been done maybe 15 years back, because the fan itself, is 12 years old. Maybe 15 years back is the design. So if 15 years have passed already, if I am told to redesign this product, what is the one thing which I will change in this fan, right? I'm only asking for one thing to be changed in the product. Can you think about that, right? So these are some of the things you can start practicing, right? And it doesn't take time. It takes maybe 5 minutes, right? You'll be surprised how lightning speed our mind thinks about so many things, right? So 5 minutes is a long time. Think about it every day. Look at one product, ask all these questions. What is the manufacturing process? If I'm looking at a cup of tea which is next to me, right? If I look at the cup and I hold the cup in my hand, can I ask the question to myself, what is the manufacturing process of this cup? I've never paid real good attention to how the cup is made. I don't want to do any guesswork. If I cannot, if I don't know, I will look up. I will try to find out, right? And what would be the cost of this product, right? If there is a pen which is lying around on my desk and I pay, let's say, 12 rupees for that pen, what is the cost, right? What's the manufacturing cost? Maybe for the company, it is costing 6 rupees or 2 rupees. I don't know what it is, right? But can I find out? Likewise, apply this for everything, right? Be curious about everything and take one thing and spend 5 minutes on it every day. And that's enough, right? That will at least get your mind thinking, right? Mind in the right gears of thinking about any product in that curious mode, right? Keep that curiosity alive. The second thing I would give you guys as a tip, right? Remember, we are asking the question that, what should I do to improve my problem solving skills? So these are the two things which I would suggest to you today. There could be other things which, you can talk to other gurus, your college professors, your parents, other industry experts, and you'll find many more ways of solving problems, right? So other thing is to get involved, right? Don't think of any problem as somebody else's problem. Let's go to that first problem that we saw, right? Big brands. Your college wants to attract big brands to your college. If you think you're not, the college is not attracting, or then big brands are not coming to your college, what can you do? Go talk to your professors. Can I help in fixing that problem? Go ask the professor, why doesn't it happen? And what can I do? When I say what can I do, you're not asking the professor to solve the problem. When I'm saying what can I do is to ask yourself, what can you do, right, to solve that problem? Doesn't matter if you are capable or don't have the expertise. Don't worry about that right away. Okay. So finding the problem to fix it, you can always look up the internet and say top 5 issues of urbanization. If you don't find, if you're it's becoming difficult for you to find problems to solve, Go to the internet. There are like 20,000 problems that you can solve. Urbanization is a problem, right? Top 5 issues because of urbanization. Because my city is growing at 25% every year, it has become such a big metropolis now. What are the top 5 issues? What has the bad things that have happened to the river, the air in my city, the climate of my city, the mountains and the trees around my city? What bad things have happened, which are issues, and what can I do to fix them? This can be a paper exercise. You don't have to go participate in any movement or anything, but this will get your mind thinking around finding a problem and then finding a solution to it. And then take one method. Let's say in a week's time, take a good problem that you find that, hey, this is something which is of my interest also. Let me build a mind map for it, right? So that's one way. Keep using the mind mapping tool to be able to solve it. The next tip is articulation, right? So catch hold of one or two of your friends and tell them what your solution is. Just like, you guys mentioned the solutions to me in this chat window. You can always talk to your friends and tell them, hey, do you have a minute? I think, there is a solution to reducing the engine noise that Tata Motors has. Or I think there is a solution to make the river less polluted. Or I think there is a different solution for that app crash. Give me 2 minutes and I'll tell you what is on my mind, right? Talking to your professors or your friends or your family members for 2 minutes in a professional manner, you're making a presentation to them what you think is the problem and what you think is the solution, right? Describe one problem that you have analyzed, the solution that you have found, and ask for their feedback and comments, right? People will happily give you feedback and comments, but because you are being so professional about it, right? And listen carefully without being defensive. When you give your solution and when somebody is commenting on your solution, don't get defensive, right? Don't try to defend your solution. Maybe it is the worst solution. Just go with the assumption that somebody else is telling you a better solution, right? So don't go in a defensive manner, and improve your articulation skill that way. So finding a problem, finding a solution to it, articulating it, and being curious, right, is the way to go. All right. So this is basically what I had for today. There is actually a quick guide to mind mapping. So where all you can apply mind mapping. The answer is very simple, everywhere, right? And in the industry, where do they use it? They use it for product concept brainstorming, new product launch, product requirements gathering, solutioning, design, debugging, problem solving, any kind of problem solving and planning, right? They use mind mapping. And then we have already talked about what mind map gives, how it helps, right? How mind mapping helps. Structured information, effectively structuring of information. So you throw in all the information on the mind map and then start structuring it. Improve reading and comprehension, because your recall is memory recall, right? Recall is when you have heard or learned about something somewhere else. Oh, my friend was telling me that yesterday. What was he telling me? That is recall, right? You're not able to recall what that guy was telling. This kind of mind mapping helps you recall faster, right? It inspires creativity and it boosts productivity. Once you have everything on this one screen, you are able to very quickly put the pins on, okay, this is important, that is important, that is not important, this is the first thing I'm going to do, this is the last thing I'm going to do, this costs too much money. All those things you are able to quickly do if you have this kind of a picture. And this is how our mind is structured, by the way. Okay, our mind does not think linearly. It is a very non-linear thinker, our mind. So, and then our mind has two parts also, right? And there is this left brain and right brain and so on, right? And you can read more about it out of your interest, but I'll stop here for today. The reason why we should use mind map, or how you should use mind map: throw in everything there. Form levels, there should be a node at the same level. simplify the node into more nodes if you think that becoming visually cluttered. And then priority indicators are also as important, right? So prioritizing it, and then that brings a closure, because once you prioritize things, you know what to do next, and then you can build a plan around it. Then plan means, you'll want resources, time, this, that, everything, hardware, all that will be a part of your planning. So that's how mind maps are used. And we talked about how to build the habit already, right? The 4 tips. Okay. Any any questions on today's topic? Or give me a thumbs up if you're still with me and you're following me so far. Okay. Thanks, Aditya. I got 1 thumbs up, which means you are able to hear me. Thanks, Karthik. All right. Are there questions? Okay. Sanika is saying, would be log analysis technique better than mind mapping? See, log analysis is analyzing data, right? It's a lot of data that you are basically analyzing. And when analyzing that kind of data, which is in system logs or app logs, you don't need mind mapping for that, right? Mind mapping technique is typically used for these things, what I talked about, which is when you say debugging a root cause of a problem, right, is a part of the larger structure of log analysis. For log analysis itself, there are other tools which are available, right? Okay, good question though. Any other? Any other question that you guys have? All right. If none, we will stop here for today. Hope you liked the presentation, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.